Hi there everybody and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be doing a state of the collection for midway through 2024. Basically, what watches have I kept in my watch box from all of the reviews that I've done over the past 12 months. There are some firm favourites in there, but to be clear, these are all watches that I wear on a regular basis in rotation. They are watches that I've had on the channel, so if you want to do a search, you can look up the reviews, and I will put links up so that if you do want to purchase one of these watches, then you can do so. Fair warning though, these are affiliate links, so for every purchase that you do make, the channel does make a small commission, which I then reinvest into buying more watches to show you guys on the channel. So with that being said, let's turn the camera around and take a look at the watches that I've got in the watch box. If you do have any questions though, please do put them in the comments section and I'll come back to you as soon as I can. All right, let's take a look at what's in my watch box. Okay, so let's start off with the non-Homage watches. First of all is the keeper, so that is my Omega Seamaster GMT, given to me by my wife for my 30th birthday, and it is the foundation of my collection. It's the watch that in some respects started my love affair, and it's the watch that I'll be handing down to one of the kids at some point. This watch comes from around about the James Bond GoldenEye sort of era. Yeah, a lot of people buying the blue dial version. I wanted something that would be able to tell me what the time was in the UK, being an expat living here in Australia, so the GMT version was straight up my alley. This watch has been serviced just the once since I've had it, and I've owned it for thereabouts 18 years. So highly reliable, and you can see there the lume is absolutely fantastic. Even after all that time, the super luminova on this is just spot on. It's a very, very legible watch in low light situations. As you can see, it has had a bit of use. The bezel is a little bit looser than I would like it to be. The diver's extension is now super glued because it has been used that often that it just opens up, and I don't want to lose the watch. It is on the beads of rice bracelet, and this watch, when I got it, was originally on the oyster style bracelet that came with the GMT. I did go back to Omega and they agreed to swap it out for this beads of rice bracelet. And I'm not particularly enthused about more complex bracelets, but this particular style, I feel anyway, is iconic. In fact, so much so that I regard it to be just as iconic as the case head and the design of the watch itself. You can see there the clasp has got quite a lot of scratches, but they are all through love and wearing the watch. Next up, we've got the Erebus Origin. So for those of you who aren't aware, Jody from Just One More Watch, who has a far more successful YouTube channel than I do, has produced his own line of watches in cooperation with his business partner, Stevie. Now, Stevie and Jody bought these watches out to serve the demands of this watch-loving community, and to try and bring to the masses a really high-quality dive watch that met most of the requirements that some of the brands just missed. And I think he's really hit the nail on the head. I've got both the black dial and the white dial version. Lume on these watches is absolutely nuclear. There's no issues with legibility in dark situations with these watches, but they do have some really nice design cues. I said this in my original review video. The watch has the, I suppose the case reminds me a lot of a Fortis, but the bracelet is very, very much like what you find on a Zin. Now, I've owned the Fortis watch. I've owned a Fortis B42 Marine Master chronograph. It was like a cosmonaut's chronograph. I did sell it, and I still regret it to this day, but this watch gives me a lot of that sort of vibe, albeit not being a chronograph, of course, but the bracelet, I really, really love it. One key thing to point out about the bracelet, and you don't find it at the price point that these watches are sold at, which is $300 US, is a quick or on-the-fly adjustment. I've only ever seen it in one watch around this price point, and that was with a Citizen dive watch. Like I say, anything else that's on the fly, I've not seen anything like it. So this is, like I say, for me, a really, really useful release for people who want a functional dive watch, but they want something that's really good quality and pound for pound or dollar for dollar, absolutely punching well above its weight. The crystal on the watches as well has a massive amount of anti-reflective coating. In fact, I think it's triple layered, so the sort of crystal does fade away into insignificance. It's a really, really legible watch. So that's great news for Erebus, and like I say, I really like wearing them. One thing to point out is they have just released a 38mm version, so if you are on the slightly shorter wrist size and you like the dive watch look but you don't like the 41mm case, their 38mm might be more appropriate. As usual, I'll put some links in the video description if you want to go and take a look at those. Next up in my collection, I have the Militado Field Watch chronograph. So this is a Seiko mecha-quartz powered field chronograph, so a military style watch with a really, really nice sand or bead blasted case. I've put it down as the non-homage, but I think it would be fair to say that it looks a lot like a Hamilton. But there are a couple of different versions of this watch out there on AliExpress. You can buy the Militado. Boltony also make one, but is very, very similar. In fact, probably I would guess that it's from the same factory, but there is quite a large price variance between Militado and Boltony, with the Militado being a lot more economical. Lume on the watch is really good. In fact, it's fair to say that every single watch in my collection by default has to have good lume. If it doesn't have good lume and it needs lume, as in it's a sports watch, it stays in the collection. If it's not well lumed, then it's promptly discarded. So I just want to cover that off. Yeah, really good watch. I like the fact that it's got screw down crowns for both setting the time and also the chronograph. So you could theoretically, if timing was something that was absolutely critical, as could be in a field watch situation or a military situation, you can set the chronograph and then screw the crowns down so that they can't be accidentally turned off or so forth. So really nice watch. I've put it here on a brown silicone strap that I purchased aftermarket on AliExpress, but the canvas strap that it came on, which you'll probably find in the review, is really nice quality. But again, if it's a field watch, canvas for me, if you're trekking around all the time, it's getting moist. That organic sort of material tends to get a bit crusty and musty and fusty and so on and so forth. So this silicone strap I think really matches the look and feel of the case head, and like I say, is really, really comfortable as well actually. So really nice watch. Again, I'll put a link in the description if you guys want to take a look at it. The only thing I would say that I'm a bit disappointed is that it doesn't have a signed crown, even though it does have a signed case back. It'd be nice to sort of see that crown with the Militado logo on it, but that's a minor pickup I think, if I'm going to be honest. So now we move into the homages, and I've tried to bunch these by the brand that they are a homage to. So first things first, we're going to start off with the Heimdallr, or more commonly as it's known, the Sharky No Time to Die. So I wasn't expecting a lot out of this watch, if I'm going to be completely honest, when I ordered it. It was a little bit more on the expensive side compared to the likes of Pagani, Militado, so on and so forth. But I did want to get it because it was the second iteration of this watch. It has a titanium case, and this second iteration has a stainless steel crown stem, which is a little bit more, how would I say, reliable and less prone to failure than the first version, which was a titanium screw thread, so it just kept getting threaded. This one has held up quite well. In fact, sorry, not very well. It's still holding up and allows me to adjust the time and screw it back in without having screwed those threads. Lume on the watch is really cool as well. It's got this lovely radioactive yellow look. What you do tend to find is with these sort of faux patina dials, the lume on them can be quite poor. Now, this isn't certainly one of the strongest ones that I've got in my collection, but to say that it is a faux patina, it is quite strong and does last fairly well throughout the night. The bracelet, obviously it has that Milanese style look to it, but it's really well finished, albeit all being in steel as opposed to titanium. But again, at the price point, you can't really argue. Build quality is really good as well. I think in terms of the cons of the watch, it's commonly accepted that the bezel movement is not as smooth as what you would find on a stainless steel version. I know the bezel is made out of titanium, and maybe that's the reason why, but it is just something to point out. If you're expecting a smooth bezel action, this is not the watch to go for. But overall, really well finished, and even has that helium escape valve on the 10 o'clock position on the left hand side. So yeah, whether a helium escape valve is really required is arguable, but like I say, the design style is certainly appreciated, and overall finishing on the titanium case, which can be quite hard to master, is very good. Next up in the Omega Homages section, I've got the Watch Dive Speedmaster. Now, I've been waiting for this watch for quite some time, to the point that it was starting to frustrate me when they kept telling me that there was delays with case production, so on and so forth. And it sounds really sort of petty here, but I've owned quite a few of the Pagani versions, the PD 1701. I've owned the Anniversary Gold and Grey version. I've owned the Mission to Mars or the Neptune one that I've had. I've had the Black Dial or the original style homage. But for me, this was one that I've been really waiting for, because it has a matte dial and it has a similar style of dial recess on those sub-dials. It is a mecha-quartz watch. It doesn't have the same type of case. It's quite a chunky case, but because the case back is quite flat, it actually sits on the wrist much the same height as a regular Speedmaster. And it has good lume. As you can see here, the lume is very, very similar to what you would find on a Speedmaster, or the original version that it's a homage to, whereas the Pagani Designs one is well, mediocre is probably a compliment. In fact, for every Pagani watch, their lume is just really not fantastic. So for me, this was the one to get, and I was really excited to have it. It's still in the collection. The bracelet is really good quality. Of course, at this particular price point, which is I think around about 180, 200 Australian dollars, so about 120, 130 USD, I think you're going to struggle to find a homage that's going to be as reliable as this and as faithfully replicating the look of the iconic watch that is the Omega Speedmaster Professional. You do have a variety of other versions. The V2 is going to be coming out very soon, but you can get this either in the white dial version or this original black dial version. But you can see there the case is a little chunkier than a regular Speedmaster case, so V2 will be sorting that out apparently. But yeah, very nice watch overall, and certainly something that's going to be staying in the collection for the foreseeable future. Next up in the collection are the Seiko Homages. So I've got two of these watches. The first of these is the Steel Dive or SD 1970, shown here on an aftermarket parastrap, or French paratrooper strap actually to be exact. Now I would argue that if you were going to go down the avenue or the rabbit hole of homage watches, the SD 1970 is hands down the iconic homage watch. In fact, it's actually probably, well, it's not probably, it's better engineered than the original watch that actually homages, that being the Seiko Willard. And it, as you can see here, has a lume that could burn into your retinas on a permanent basis. It's an absolutely outstanding watch. I can't sing its praises high enough. It's just a fantastic watch. Ironically, this is a Seiko homage that also contains a Seiko movement. So this is an automatic. It's got an NH35 movement, which is essentially the outsourced or third-party version of their 4R36 movement, which you'll find in most of the Seiko 5 collection, to be exact. But really well designed. Like I say, the lume's fantastic. You do have a very, very nice case. The finishing on it is exceptional. These, you can pick them up for around about $60 US, certain ports during the sales that AliExpress have on, so always keep an eye out. Again, put a link in the description if you want to take a look, but you can get these in a wide range of colours: yellow, blue, pink, white, a whole range of different colours. I did buy mine on a silicone strap, but I would recommend buying it on the steel bracelet because it doesn't cost any more, and if you want to swap it out for a strap, then you can do, and it's a bit cheaper to do it that way. But yeah, really awesome watch, and certainly if you are looking at Homage, buy this one first. You won't be disappointed, and it will certainly feed your addiction into getting more watches that are from the Homage realm. Next up, we have another home dollar, and this time it is their homage to the Seiko Marine Master 300. Now, I've wanted the Marine Master 300 for quite some time. It is, in my view, just as iconic as the Rolex Submariner, albeit a much larger version of the Submariner. In fact, it's probably more like the Sea Dweller or something along those lines. Loom on this watch is absolutely outstanding, but I do appreciate this isn't a watch for everybody. It does have a rather large footprint and is probably a little bit high in terms of it fitting under the cuff and that sort of thing. So it is certainly a sports watch. It's not something you can really wear in a dress environment. But I really like this watch. I think the loom on it is fantastic. I love the handset. I love everything about it. So this watch retailed, well, I got it in a sale. I think it was about 160, 170 Australian dollars. But the Seiko version of this watch retails here in Australia for somewhere around about 7,000 Australian dollars. So, very affordable alternative if you like this particular look. Again, albeit a Seiko Homage, it does contain the Seiko NH35 automatic movement. So it is a Seiko Homage with a Seiko movement, and for all intents and purposes, it is a Seiko. Nothing more to be said. Bracelet, really good. The clasp is fantastic. Some people have complained that they don't like the bracelet. I find nothing wrong with it at all. I think it's really well made. It doesn't feel cheap in any way, shape or form, and it is pretty solid and faithful to the watch that it's homaging, albeit without the on-the-fly adjustment that you find with the original Seiko version. Also need to mention that it is a monoblock case construction, so you actually need to access this watch from the dial side as opposed to the case back, because there is no case back. It is one solid hunk of steel, 316L stainless steel. Moving on to the next set of homages within the collection, and these are the Tudor Homages. First up, we've got the Addies Dive Black Bay Pro GMT. This has been a real surprise for me because I got it for a review, not thinking to be, a watch that I was going to keep, primarily because it was quartz, but it is a Swiss quartz, Ronda movement inside. And I love this watch. It is probably one of the cheaper watches in the Homage watch collection, or part of the Homage watch collection that I have. But I love it. It's not something that sort of sits in there gathering dust. I wear it quite often. I found myself wearing it more and more often, actually. The dial has a very matte effect to it. As you can see, the loom on it is absolutely stellar. And because it's quartz, I don't need to worry about it. At best, I have to change the battery in a couple of years' time. It's not one of those watches that's going to suffer a malfunction, other than, if I leave the crown open and wear it in the water and it, fails as a result of that. But Addies Dive are, well, I'm trying to figure out what the relationship is between Steel Dive and Addies Dive, because they do have some watches that are very, very similar. I don't think they are the same organisation, because the watches do have a little bit of price disparity, Addies Dive being the cheaper of the two brands. But this, absolutely fantastic. It fulfills my needs as a GMT watch. It gives me that Black Bay Pro GMT look, but at a price point approaching around about 50 to 60 US dollars. Case finishing is far better than would be expected at a watch at a price point 3 times or more of that, and the bracelet is very well finished. The clasp is somewhat disappointing in terms of how it compares to the rest of the bracelet, but that isn't to say it's poor by any stretch of the means. It's just probably the weakest element on this watch. You've got solid end links and pinned links, so it is a little bit fiddly to adjust, but I think with all those things considered at the price point, it is an absolutely solid buy if you're looking for something that's reliable and has a GMT function with good luminosity. So that is the Adidive Black Bay Pro GMT. Next up in the Tudor Homage arena, we've got the San Martin Black Bay 54, or as I like to call it, the Blue Bay 54. So this is from San Martin. It is probably one of the better known manufacturers and certainly has a higher production or quality ratio to other watches, and the price point does reflect that. It's really well finished. It's got quite a complex brushed and polished case. The bezel action's outstanding. It does have a Seiko NH35, much the same as most other automatic watches on AliExpress. Good solid lume, but the finishing on this watch is far above what you should be expecting at the price point. I think I paid around about 220 to 250 USD, so probably about 325 Australian dollars, something like that. But I got a watch that I would consider to be in a price bracket, if it were any other brand, approaching $2,000. I absolutely think that San Martin are producing some fantastic watches. Their quality is outstanding. Like I say, very, very good watch. I do like the fact that the bezel action is really solid, and just the small things like the on the bezel, that engraving is silver as opposed to white. It gives it a little bit more of a premium feel. And the bracelet itself is really cool. It's got screwed links. This one, because it is a slightly earlier model from San Martin, it doesn't have the on-the-fly adjustment that many of their more recent models have, but the clasp on it is really nice, and I love the San Martin logo, which some of you may or may not agree that the names and the logo styles for some of these watches on AliExpress can be a little bit lacking somewhat, but San Martin seem to have got a fairly good mix here, which certainly helps the watch's aesthetics. But yeah, that is the BB54 and has been in the collection for quite some time now, and probably going to stay there for just as long again. So last but not least, we have the Rolex Homages from my collection, and these are the last two watches in the watch box. The first up is the Watchdive Submariner. Now, for those of you who've been long-suffering subscribers to my channel, you've probably heard me espouse the benefits of the ST 1957 from Steel Dive, which is another Submariner clone. This watch, however, is slightly more expensive than the Steel Dive ST 1957 or 53. It's how would I put it? It's almost like it's the new version of the Submariner. Like I say, it does sit at a slightly higher price point, but the finishing on it is really, really good. In fact, I'd go so far as to say it's got a little bit of a San Martin sort of quality feel about it. And that may be me sort of overestimating it, but that's just my personal opinion. I think the watch is really well refined. The watch case has a certain sheen to it, and I think it's accentuated by the ceramic bezel, which really does give it a glossy premium sort of look. Finishing on the watch, as I said before, is really, really good, and it has that maxi case or modern Submariner sort of look about it. But inside, Seiko NH35, really solid bezel action, and you do also have the silver engraving on the bezel there, as opposed to white, which is what you find on some of the other Submariner Homages. Bracelet, very, very similar to what I would find on the San Martin BB54 that I showed you previously. Again, this one doesn't have a quick adjustment or on-the-fly adjustment. It is just the pin adjustments. So I think you've got 3 or 4 different adjustments, but really, really well finished watch. And like I say, Submariners are iconic watches, and this gives me that look for a fraction of the price. The bracelet finishing is really good, but like I say, very, very nice watch for the price point if you're in the market for a Submariner and you don't want to buy a fake because that's not cool. You just want something that gives you that look, then do consider this watch dive version. Last but by no means least, and it wouldn't be a Homage watch collection without including this brand, it is the Pagani Design Explorer 2 GMT, or as it's commonly known, the Polar Explorer, namely so because of the white dial. It would be fair to say that this watch is probably the best loomed Pagani design watch that I've encountered in my extensive experience of the brand. I don't know whether they just mixed the dial up and gave it the wrong type of loom, but it is mildly legible after dark and holds its loom for a significantly longer period than what you would typically find on a Pagani. That's me being sarcastic, but in reality it is quite legible. You can see there it does have quite a good amount of luminosity on it. In terms of the movement, you do have a Seiko NH34 GMT movement, so it's an automatic movement, and I've had this watch probably for about 2 years now, and it's still ticking, it's still running, it's been in the water, and it has served me faithfully. As you would expect with a Homage watch, it's not been mollycoddled or anything like that. I wear my watches and they aren't subject to being treated, especially. They obviously do get put in rotation, so I might wear this watch 2 or 3 times out of the month. But no, needless to say, it's still a very good watch and is reliable and exactly what I want from it. So fair credit to Pagani for producing this. Now, there are some other versions of this watch, namely with a Chinese movement in them, or a domestic movement as opposed to the Seiko movement. I have had that watch as well, and I've not had any issues with the movement, but there have been reports of it failing. Like I say, for me, it was worth buying the NH34 version, albeit slightly more expensive because of the fact that it is a Seiko movement, so therefore I assume it is mildly more reliable than the Chinese alternative. You do have a sort of Rolex style clasp. This one has seen a fair bit of use, so it is a little bit looser than I'd like it to be, so I might need to pinch in that clasp a little bit to make it more secure. But yeah, kudos to Pagani for producing this watch. It's certainly been in the collection for a while, and I don't think it's going to be disappearing anytime soon. So, guys, that is my watch collection, or state of the collection, for the first half of this year. If you do have any questions, comments, queries, please do put them in the comment section and I'll try to come back to you. But other than that, I will see you in a new video that I'll be releasing this weekend. So watch this space, and yeah, I'll see you soon. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.